Hey guys, this is Hayes with CheatSheetPros.com. Today's April 3rd and I dropped our MLB cheat sheet, and actually I just noticed I didn't change this banner from 2024 to 2025. So either way, this is the 2025 version. I'm just going to do a quick run through of it because I did post it in the free group today for everybody to play with. Baseball is one of my favorite sports to handicap and bet, so in the next couple of weeks I will probably start getting up early in the morning and looking at a lot of these games. Flipping down through here, so on our main tab, if you're betting, this is the best place to go. If you're doing DFS stacks, props, this is a solid place to go. As with most of my sheets, click here inside, so you see it's gone, click inside the home team, this caret drops down, and you can kind of flip through here and it will take you game by game. So what this is going to do, let me find someone who's got enough stats to populate in. Okay, so over here you can see the teams, kind of the records, the win, loss, the score, how many total runs they're putting up, home, away. This gives you a good look at the bullpen. So the bullpen, I look at the last 14 days just because baseball is such a long season. There are a lot of injuries. There may be a key closer that's out for a month. So I try to grab a rolling last 14 days so you can get a good idea of what that bullpen is. And then I just give you an overall rank in case you don't like looking at a lot of numbers. And as always, we have our models that are going to start populating in that we've built on our own. This is your pitching matchup here. It's going to show you the last two starts and give you a quick breakdown. So here we can see Hunter Brown went 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 7 Ks, and it was against the Mets. So it gives you a rough idea of what they've recently done. Hits per innings pitched is a good stat to look at. We kind of slid this one in here last year. And then all of your basic stats. The team breakdown are over here, so just below this. This is going to give you a quick synopsis of just how the team is doing. Wins, losses, runs. And then this is going to look at their overall power ranking, their record, how they've been doing over the last 2 weeks. So it's going to show you their average, their strikeout rate, their WRC+. If you don't like looking at stats and ISO and XFIP and all these numbers, just look at WRC+, and think of that as like 100 is like the scale. That is like the middle average team. If it's above 100, they're really good. Below 100, it's really bad. So 68, you can see they rank 26th. So they've been struggling, but you can see the last 2 games, they put up a combined 14 runs, so that's a little better. If you do love stats and you want to get detailed, then here in this middle section, you can see how they do home versus road, and how the team does versus a lefty or a righty. And I've got a little today mark that jumps up real quick to show you if they're facing a lefty, a righty, etc., etc. Now we come down here to the lineups. Now these are auto-updated, so when you open up the sheet, you'll notice it running for about 30 seconds. What it's doing, it's going out and getting any refresh lineups. So I tell people, download this in the morning, save it to your desktop, and then open it up, let it run, and save it again, and it will keep updating as these lineups do come out. These are pretty much obvious. These are last 14-day stats, averages, hits, runs, RBIs. I put a hits, run, RBI column over here because that's a popular bet that a lot of people do. And then also we've got a little indicator for if they're hot, if they're cold, which you can see here. Houston's been struggling. You know, Diaz 2 for 18, Pina 2 for 19, so that's a little rough to say the least. And then over here, batter versus pitcher history, if there's any of that. Stats versus pitcher hand, and we have our custom grade over here. So like here, you can see this one graded out at 132 and shot red. So here you can see Bader versus pitcher hand is hitting 364, no strikeouts, a 685 WOBA, and a 909 ISO, and his WRC plus is 383. So if you dug into that, it's probably like 3 at-bats, and he's got, you know, a home run and 2 RBIs. So not a lot of stats, but definitely something to take a look at. And then if you're doing DraftKings or fantasy, this just shows you what their DK points are over the last week. Now, DraftKings and FanDuel are different, but the main thing on this, it pulls from DraftKings, but just know if one guy's doing really good on one site, he's also probably doing pretty good on the other side, and that's the only thing we're pointing out there. Flip down here, this is my favorite thing to look at, so you can see the pitcher, and you can see his complete breakdown versus lefties versus righties, home versus road, his total stats, ERA, XFIP, WHIP, the averages he's allowing, and then you can also see the bullpen right there, so you get a good idea of who this team is facing. And then if you want to dig down further, you can see each of their individual games, and we pull the last 7, and it shows you all of their stats for that game. So like here you can see he walked 3 batters in 6 innings. That's not real good. But he only gave up 2 earned runs and 4 hits and had 7 Ks, so that's pretty good. And then also you can see kind of his DK versus FanDuel numbers, and so this will populate as we go forward. And then over here we have pitcher and hitter tabs, so we separated them out. So our pitchers, we go through, we can see the power ranking for the team, the opponent power ranking, and then any highlighted differences here. So you can see Cincinnati over Milwaukee would be a game I would want to look into because we have a significant difference in the power rankings. You can see what the Vegas total numbers are. So even if you just wanted to come in and sort this and say, okay, what team's projected to get the most runs, lowest runs, etc. And then we have our fantasy corners. You can see what they're projected at, the raw numbers, along with their salaries. And then over here, these are what I spend the majority of my time on, our pitcher props. So like here, this is for strikeouts. And so I can look down here and I can see what the current prop is for the day and what they're averaging over the last 7 games. Now, a lot of these, they only have 1 game, so it's really not going to show you anything. It's either over or under. But one of the key things to look at are the hits per innings pitched, so you can kind of see who is struggling. So for here, Cortez, he struggled. He gave up 3 hits per innings pitched. Now, given it's only 1 game, so take that with a grain of salt, but that's someone you may want to target. Also, the opponent strikeout rate over the last 2 weeks, you can see how it's ranked. So here, Taijuan Walker facing Colorado. Colorado has a 33% K rate, which is one of the worst in the MLB. So maybe he's someone you look at if you think he's got a good K9 number or strikeout rate. Same thing with our other props. Earned runs allowed. They didn't have any earned run props this morning when I ran this at 5:30 in the morning, but you can kind of see, okay, Cortez gave up 8 runs. So maybe you look at that and see what it is. And then same thing, I put their hits allowed and pitching outs. Pitching outs is a fun one that I get into as the year goes on. You can also do props on DK of a pitcher to record a win. So here you can see if they recorded a win, a loss, or if it was no decision, and then just kind of see how they've done over recent starts. If you do take a pitcher to record a win, make sure you look at the bullpen and make sure the bullpen's not going to fuck it up and blow the game, because I can't tell you how many times people were like, oh, I love this pitcher. Well, after 5-6 innings, he leaves bullpen, gives up 5 runs, blows it, and then you end up losing. Walks, home runs allowed. Some people tinker in that market, so I have those in here separated out. And then just to give you some more stats, we have the pitcher stats versus righties versus lefties. So if you want to get really detailed and see how this particular pitcher is doing versus a handed batter and how many handed batters they are facing, you can do that as well. Moving on the hitters tab, we have our custom algo as we do with everything. And this is pretty straightforward. We're waiting for a lot of stats to kind of fill in, some pitchers to get a couple starts under their belt. Over here, this is our fantasy tracker over the last 7 days. So you can see the color-coded, the big games are in red, the mediocre game or big games are red, green. I forget what the scale is. I'm sure it's on here somewhere. And then blue, obviously, is cold. And then here we have our fantasy projections, corner stats, all that good stuff. Hitter stats versus the current pitcher handedness. So this auto-populates. Player name, if you're sorting by any of these columns, just so you don't have to scroll across the screen. Any batter versus pitcher history that we have in here is going to show hits, at-bats, how many home runs they've hit, like 3 of 12, 2 home runs, 2 Ks. Take that with a grain of salt. And then I pulled in the last 14-day stats because I love seeing the players that are red hot and something that we can take a look at. But anyways, every day I kind of dig through it. If a player, like for example, Gunnar Henderson, he's missing from here, I'll go back and take a look. Lots of times it's just a column shifted, but we're fixing those every day. Scorecard, this is, pretty self-explanatory. It's going to show you what they've done. It's going to give them a score over the last 14 days, any batter versus pitcher history, pitcher stats. Just kind of gives you a quick breakdown of some people you may want to target. The betting tab, I really like the betting board. This is a good place to go to get all of your information. Here we can see power rankings. We can see how the bullpens rank up against each other. So these two are just key right here. Like, how's the team doing? How's the bullpen doing? And then you can see the last 10 record. Home versus road split. So for the road team, that's going to be their road record. The home team, that's going to be their home record. So you can see maybe something jumps out off the page at you. This is what Vegas is projected. This is what our model's projected. Now, given there's not enough data to really look at this, but you can kind of see that there's a difference. And if there's any big advantages, it'll show up here on this advance. So here it'd say, okay, we're leaning Baltimore over Boston. But given the pitcher has one start, so that's going to skew a lot of stats. Pitcher breakdown, real good. It's going to show you their earned run and strikeout props right here up top. You can see their basic stats. And then this isn't going to populate until they get all 5 in there. So if it pulls 3, it'll show blank because it's going to error out. But after they get 5, it'll show how many earned runs they've allowed each of the last 5 games. But you can also look at the last 3 starts. And I got such positive feedback last year from having 1 that I added 2 that eventually I just added 3. So you can kind of flip through here and see, okay, Senzatella, 4 innings, 9 hits, no runs, no Ks. So he's probably going to get slapped around a little bit. So if you're betting the early slate, maybe you take his hits allowed prop. And then over here, the team runs over the last 6 games. So just how's the team doing? Are they scoring runs? I think there was one last night that was like 0-0-1-0. And I'm like, oh my God, they're like not scoring anything. And then here you can just kind of see what that average is. And then we got our little indicator if they're hot, they're cold. And then we got the bullpen data. We rank everything out, and then I can't remember who wanted it, but we did like a first 5 model where we split it up like 60-40, focused it more on the pitching, and so we broke this out here for people that bet the first 5 games. And then last but not least, we have the live lineups. So as always, this updates. It'll say here if it's a confirmed lineup or pending. Like here it says this one's projected, so it's not confirmed yet. But you can just see the last 14-day stats, which I love looking at for hitters to see who's hot, who's cold, who's on a streak. So, for example, Devers here, he's 2 for 23, batting .087. Maybe he's someone, if you're doing a DFS stack, you just skip over him and you take the 1, the 3, and then the 5, 6, 7 hitters, and just mix it up a little bit. Typically, most people playing DFS, they're going to go 1 through 4, 1 through 5, 2 to 5, 2 to 6. They're very straight lace. So if you look at that and you say, okay, I'm going to skip Devers, he's struggling, Casas is struggling, and you go 1, 3, 5, 6, you know, Abreu, I picked him up in my fantasy leagues. He's doing good. 7 of 14, batting .500, and he's in the lineup. So skip over, add him in there. That'll give you something a little bit different. So this is fun to look at. And then we also have team scores, opponent scores, stats, your basic information. You can see the pitcher they're facing, the starts, power ranking, all that good stuff. So if you're doing DFS, this is kind of fun to look at and break down. But anyways, if you see any errors in here, just give me a couple days. They'll get them fixed. I'm adding people and adding them as we go on. But just want to give you a quick kind of mini tutorial update on this 2025 cheat sheet. Have a good day, guys.